Tom Smith straightened his tie for the third time as he walked through the gleaming hallways of the Galactic Council's headquarters. The walls shimmered with a pearly glow that reminded him of soap bubbles, only these bubbles had lasted for over 10,000 years. As Earth's first ambassador to the Council, he had gotten used to many strange things over the past year, but the annual planetary assessment ceremony still made him nervous. Just another routine day, he muttered to himself. Probably another nomination for most diverse ecosystems, or maybe fastest developing space technology. Earth had received several minor awards since joining the galactic community, though they had yet to win anything significant. The chamber doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the massive circular room where representatives from over 300 planetary systems gathered. The council members sat in rising tiers, their various forms illuminated by the soft blue lighting. Some floated in containment fields filled with their native atmospheres, while others sat in specially designed chairs that accommodated their unique body structures. Ambassador Smith called out the head council member, a tall being with silvery skin who went by the name Blue. "Please take your seat. We have an unusual situation to discuss regarding Earth." Tom felt his stomach tighten. In galactic politics, unusual rarely meant good news. He made his way to the human delegation spot, noticing how several alien representatives shifted away slightly as he passed. "As you know," Blue continued, "the annual Planetary Assessment Committee has been reviewing candidates for various awards. Earth has received a nomination. In fact, it has received multiple nominations, all for the same category." Tom sat up straighter. Multiple nominations. That was unexpected. Maybe Earth was finally getting the recognition it deserved. "Your planet," Blue paused, multiple eyes blinking in sequence, "has been unanimously nominated for most terrifying planet in the known galaxy." The water in Tom's glass rippled as his hand shook. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing Earth floating serenely in space. Various images began appearing around it. Humans rock climbing without safety gear, someone eating a ghost pepper, a wounded soldier carrying his companion through gunfire, a surgeon performing open-heart surgery, and a group of teenagers laughing while watching a horror movie. "The committee has compiled extensive evidence," explained Blue. "Your species not only survives conditions that would kill most sentient beings, but you actively seek out dangerous situations for what you call entertainment." Another council member, a gelatinous being named Ring, wobbled forward. "You keep apex predators in your homes and call them pets. You deliberately consume substances that cause pain to your taste receptors. You expose yourselves to harmful radiation for cosmetic purposes." "That's just tanning," Tom tried to explain, but was interrupted by a third council member, a crystalline entity called Sharp. "Your young engage in recreational activities that have a high probability of causing bodily harm. You call them sports. Your entertainment media frequently depicts scenarios designed to trigger fear responses, which you watch voluntarily." Tom looked around the chamber, expecting to see some sign that this was an elaborate joke. Instead, he saw only serious faces on those species that had faces. "Surely this is a misunderstanding. Humans aren't terrifying. We're quite friendly." "You smile to show friendship," Blue noted, "by baring your teeth, a universal threat display among predator species. Even your attempts at peaceful gestures are terrifying." The holographic display showed more images: firefighters running into burning buildings, free divers swimming with sharks, people skydiving from the edge of space, and a mother lifting a vehicle off her trapped child. "The nomination is based not on any hostile intent," Blue clarified, "but on your species' apparent inability to recognize or respect what other beings consider to be mortal danger. It is disturbing." Tom sat there, trying to process this information. He had prepared counter-arguments for accusations of aggression, technological inadequacy, or cultural immaturity. But how could he defend humanity against being too resilient, too adaptable, too willing to face challenges? As the council continued presenting their evidence, Tom realized with growing amazement that humanity's ordinary traits had somehow earned them the galaxy's fearful respect. He wasn't sure whether to be proud or concerned about what this might mean for Earth's future in the galactic community. What he did know was that this was going to make one interesting report to send back home. Jack Miller had seen many strange things as a council observer, but interviewing aliens about why they found humans terrifying was a new one. He sat in his office aboard the galactic station, reviewing his first appointment of the day. The room was designed to accommodate various species, with temperature controls and atmosphere adjusters for different biological needs. His first interview was with Captain Green, a plant-based being who commanded a trading vessel. The captain's leaves rustled nervously as he spoke. "I visited Earth for a trade conference," Green began, his stems swaying. "They served something called salad at lunch. Do you know what that is? It's the chopped-up bodies of plants. They eat plants alive. And they were so casual about it, talking and laughing while consuming their victims." Jack tried not to smile as he took notes. "And this disturbed you. They offered me something called fruit juice. That's plant blood. And they drink it for pleasure." Green's leaves turned a pale yellow from stress. The next interview was with Dr. Mist, a gaseous being who floated in a containment field. She had studied human medical practices. "They just keep going." Mist wavered in her containment field. "A human can lose an entire limb and survive. They can have half their organs removed and live. Their bones break and then just grow back together. It's unnatural." "Could you elaborate?" Jack asked, typing quickly. "They sleep. Every day they become unconscious for hours, completely vulnerable, and they call it normal. And sometimes they do it in public places called parks or on something called a beach, just lying there, defenseless, under their deadly radiation star." The afternoon brought Commander Stone, a crystalline being who had observed human military training. "They practice fighting when they're not at war." Stone vibrated with concern. "They run towards danger instead of away from it. We watched a group of them jump out of a perfectly good flying machine. For fun. They called it parachuting." Jack nodded. "Anything else?" "They have specialized humans called firefighters who run into burning buildings. Into them. And emergency medical technicians who drive toward accidents and disasters." "What kind of species intentionally heads toward danger?" The most interesting interview came from Trade Representative Bubble, an aquatic species who had visited Earth's entertainment centers. "They have buildings called gyms where they voluntarily torture themselves." Bubble's liquid form rippled with agitation. "They lift heavy objects until their muscles tear, then wait for the muscles to heal stronger and do it again. They make their hearts beat faster on purpose. They sweat deliberately." "Tell me about their entertainment," Jack prompted. "They simulate near-death experiences and call it roller coasters. They watch stories about their own species being hunted or killed and call it horror movies. Some of them jump off cliffs attached to elastic cords for fun." "Fun, do you understand? They terrify themselves intentionally." As the day wound down, Jack reviewed his notes. The final interview was with Ambassador Light, a being of pure energy who had studied human history. They survived multiple ice ages by wrapping themselves in the fur of dead animals. Light flickered anxiously. "They crossed oceans in wooden boats, knowing they might die. They climbed their highest mountains just because they were there. They sent people into space in rockets that had a significant chance of exploding, just to see what was up there." "And what concerns you most about humans?" Jack asked. Light's glow dimmed slightly. "Their response to adversity. Other species see an insurmountable obstacle and sensibly give up. Humans, they get excited. They see something impossible and say, 'Watch this.' That's not normal behavior for a rational species." Jack finished his report late that night, adding one final note. "Most concerning of all is humanity's complete inability to understand why any of these behaviors would be considered disturbing. When informed of their nomination for Most Terrifying Planet, their ambassador's primary reaction appeared to be confusion and pride. He sat back, thinking about how to present these findings to the Council. How do you explain to the galaxy that Earth's inhabitants aren't trying to be scary? They're just being human. The ancient records chamber of the Galactic Council was usually empty. Today, however, it buzzed with activity as researchers pulled up historical documents about Earth. Tom Smith and Jack Miller stood in the center of the room, surrounded by hovering holographic displays showing Earth's history through alien eyes. "You mean to tell me," Tom said slowly, "that aliens have been watching us this whole time?" "Oh yes," replied the chief archivist, a tall being made of living crystal called Spark. "Many species observed Earth. Most were too frightened to make contact." Spark's crystalline form flickered with different colors as he pulled up more records. The first recording was from 70,000 years ago. A shimmering projection showed early humans surviving the Toba supervolcano eruption. "This event should have ended your species," Spark noted. "The proper response to a supervolcano is extinction. Instead, humans adapted and spread across the planet. Most disturbing." The next record showed ancient humans hunting mammoths. "They chased creatures 5 times their size off cliffs," Spark commented. "When that wasn't efficient enough, they invented spears and organized hunts. They turned their lack of natural weapons into an advantage by creating artificial ones. No other species had done this." Tom watched with growing interest as more records appeared. "Here," Spark continued, "humans discovered that certain plants could kill them. Their response? They learned which parts were poisonous through trial and error, then started eating the safe parts. Some they even learned to process into safe food. Most species avoid poisonous plants entirely." Jack took notes as Spark pulled up medieval records. "Look at this behavior," Spark said, showing scenes of ancient warfare. "They built massive devices just to throw rocks at walls. When the walls got stronger, they made bigger rock-throwing machines. When that wasn't enough, they invented powder that explodes and used it to throw metal balls instead. That's just the development of military technology," Tom tried to explain. "Exactly." Spark's crystal structure vibrated with excitement. "Other species develop defensive technology. Humans, they look at every new discovery and ask, how can we use this to throw things harder?" The records continued through history. Alien observers had watched in horror as humans crossed oceans in wooden boats, survived plagues, rebuilt cities after disasters, and continued to advance despite setbacks that would have ended most civilizations. "Here's what really worried the observation teams," Spark said, showing records from the Industrial Revolution. "Humans discovered their industrial activities were making their air toxic. Did they stop? No. They invented ways to keep doing it while working on fixes. They knew they were poisoning themselves but kept going because it was profitable." A new set of records showed early polar expeditions. "They went to the coldest parts of their planet on purpose," Spark noted incredulously. "In wooden ships. They got stuck in ice, ate their boots, died horribly. And then more humans said, 'Great idea. Let's try that again. But better this time.'" Tom smiled proudly. "That's the spirit of exploration." "That's the spirit of madness," Spark corrected. "Here's what sealed Earth's reputation." The final records showed the space race. Alien observers had watched in disbelief as humans strapped themselves to rockets filled with explosives. "The early rockets had a 50% failure rate," Spark explained. "Humans knew this. They did it anyway. The chosen humans, astronauts, you call them, were excited about it. They competed for the chance to sit on top of an explosive device." Tom looked thoughtful. "When you put it that way. And that's not the worst part," Spark added, pulling up the final record. "After the first moon landing, we intercepted a transmission from one of your leaders asking why you went to the moon. The answer: because it was there. No strategic value. No resource assessment. No practical reason at all. You just saw a lifeless rock in space and decided to visit it. The chamber fell silent as the records faded. Jack finished his notes while Tom stood there, seeing human history through alien eyes for the first time. You know what's really terrifying? Spark said quietly. Everything I've shown you. Your species calls it progress, and you're proud of it. Dr. Ann Roberts had given many medical presentations in her career, but this was the first time her audience had needed calm-down breaks every 10 minutes. She stood in the Galactic Council's medical chamber, surrounded by alien doctors of various species, all of whom were showing signs of distress. "Let me get this straight," said Dr. Float, a cloud-like being who headed the Council's medical board. "You're saying humans routinely survive having their body cut open?" "That's correct," Anne replied, showing a slide of a routine appendectomy. "We call it surgery. It's quite common." 3 alien doctors promptly floated out of the room to compose themselves. And this process, Dr. Float continued, his gaseous form swirling with anxiety. "You do it while the human is unconscious." "Yes, we use anesthesia too." "You deliberately make them unconscious," interrupted Dr. Crystal, a silicon-based physician. "And they agree to this?" Anne nodded. "Most sign consent forms weeks in advance." The medical chamber erupted in a chaos of distressed noises. Dr. Float had to ring a special tone to restore order. "Please continue," he said, though his cloudy form had noticeably paled. Anne pulled up her next slide. "Here's an interesting case of a construction worker who survived a metal rod through his." "Break time," shouted Dr. Crystal. "We need another break." After the alien doctors had calmed down and returned, Anne tried a different approach. "Let's talk about something simpler. Here's how human bones heal." The holographic display showed a broken bone knitting itself back together. The alien doctors watched in horrified fascination. "The bone actually grows back stronger at the break point," Anne explained proudly. "You mean to tell me," Dr. Gel, a jellyfish-like being, wobbled nervously, "that when humans break, they don't just fix themselves. They come back tougher?" "Exactly. And not just bones. Our muscle tissue. There's more." Dr. Gel's translucent form turned a pale shade of green. Anne showed them slides of human exercise physiology. "When we lift weights, we actually cause tiny tears in our muscles. They heal back stronger, which is how we build strength." "Let us understand this correctly," Dr. Float said, his cloudy form condensing with concentration. "Humans deliberately damage their muscles to make them stronger." "That's right. And look at this chart of recovery times." "Wait," Dr. Crystal interrupted again. "What about these antibodies you mentioned earlier? Your bodies remember diseases they fought before." "Yes, that's how our immune system." "So humans not only survive diseases, but they become stronger against them. They keep a biological memory of their enemies." Anne beamed. "Exactly. And with vaccines, we can even." "They deliberately inject themselves with diseases to become stronger." Dr. Gel's whole form quivered. That's terrifying," completed Dr. Float. "The word you're looking for is terrifying." Anne pulled up her final slides. "Let me show you some examples of human regeneration. We can donate up to 60% of our liver, and it grows back. We replace our entire skeleton over 10 years. We can lose half our blood volume and survive. Oh, and women can grow an entire new human inside them." There was a moment of absolute silence in the chamber. Then, like a wave, alien doctors began fainting, dissolving, crystallizing, or whatever passed for losing consciousness in their species. Dr. Float, one of the few still conscious, drifted over to Anne. "Dr. Roberts, your species, you really don't see anything unusual about any of this." Anne looked confused. "Unusual? This is just basic human biology. Wait until I tell you about our pain tolerance and adrenaline responses." Dr. Float quickly pressed the emergency evacuation button before she could continue. As medical staff rushed in to assist the unconscious alien doctors, Anne stood there wondering if she should mention humans' ability to survive on just one lung, or how we can function normally missing large portions of our brain. She decided to save those slides for another day. After all, there was only so much terror the galactic medical community could handle in one session. Bill Cooper's job as Earth's cultural attaché usually involved explaining human art and entertainment to aliens. Today, he was trying to convince the Galactic Council's Cultural Committee that humans weren't completely insane. "Let me understand this," said Chief Observer Shine, a luminescent being floating in a light field. "Your species watches other humans pretend to be in danger for entertainment." "Well, yes," Bill replied. "We call them movies." He played a clip from a popular action film. The alien committee members watched in horror as the hero jumped from an exploding building. "And this brings you pleasure?" asked Observer Wave, an aquatic being. "Sure. Look at those special effects," Bill said enthusiastically. "Though some people prefer horror movies." "Horror," interrupted Observer Rock, a silicon-based being. "You mean humans intentionally seek out entertainment that frightens them?" "Well, yeah. The adrenaline rush is fun." Bill realized too late this was the wrong thing to say. "They get chemical pleasure from fear." Observer Rock crystallized slightly in shock. "Quick, make a note of that." Bill tried a different approach. "Let's talk about something lighter. Here's what humans do for fun on weekends." The holographic display showed various human recreational activities. The aliens watched in growing distress as people bungee jumped, rode roller coasters, and went whitewater rafting. They fall from heights voluntarily. Observer Wave's liquid form rippled in distress. "And they pay money to do it," added Observer Shine, their glow flickering with anxiety. Bill quickly switched to sports footage. "Here's something more normal. Just some regular human games." The screen showed clips of football, boxing, and hockey. The committee's reaction was not what he expected. "They crash into each other on purpose," Observer Rock exclaimed. "Look, that human just hit another human with a stick." "That's just hockey," Bill tried to explain. "It's not that violent compared to rugby." "There's something worse." Observer Wave had turned a pale blue color. Desperate to salvage the situation, Bill switched to showing ordinary daily activities. "Look, here's how humans relax. Some nice footage of people cooking." The screen showed a chef using a flame grill. "They still use fire to prepare food." Observer Shine's light dimmed in shock. After it burned them so many times in their history. "And look," Observer Rock pointed. "They're deliberately adding toxic substances." "Those are just spices," Bill protested. "Hot peppers are perfectly safe." "They're eating plants that cause pain." Observer Wave was now practically boiling, and smiling while doing it. Bill decided to try one last time. "Okay, here's something really calm. Human music festivals." The footage showed a massive crowd at a rock concert. "They gather in enormous crowds," Observer Rock noted with horror, "pressing against each other while loud sounds damage their hearing organs." "The ones in the front are being crushed," Observer Wave observed. "Why are they happy about this? And what is this behavior called moshing?" Observer Shine asked. "They're deliberately colliding with each other." Bill sat down heavily in his chair. "Look, we just enjoy a bit of excitement in our lives. It's not that weird." The committee members huddled together, whispering among themselves. Finally, Observer Shine turned back to Bill. "Mr. Cooper, we've reviewed Earth's cultural activities and have concluded that your species appears to actively seek out situations that most rational beings would avoid. You deliberately expose yourselves to fear, pain, and danger for fun." "Well, when you put it that way," Bill started. "Furthermore," Observer Rock added, "you seem to be completely unaware of how disturbing this is. You call clearly dangerous activities sports and label fear-inducing experiences as entertainment. Your entire species," Observer Wave concluded, appears to be adrenaline addicts with no sense of self-preservation. Bill thought about protesting, but then remembered he had gone skydiving last weekend, eaten a ghost pepper on a dare yesterday, and was planning to go rock climbing tomorrow. Maybe they had a point. Ambassador Tom Smith and Colonel Mary Wilson stood before the Galactic Council, ready to present Earth's defense against being labeled the most terrifying planet. The Great Chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of worlds, all watching nervously. Members of the Council, Tom began, we believe there's been a misunderstanding. Humans aren't terrifying. Let me introduce Colonel Wilson, who will explain how peaceful we actually are. Mary stepped forward, her military medals gleaming. Thank you, Ambassador. I'd like to start by showing how humans help each other. She played a video of rescue workers. See, here are firefighters running into a burning building to save strangers. They enter fire deliberately, gasped one council member. And look here, Mary continued proudly. These paramedics are extracting injured people from a crashed vehicle using metal-cutting tools. They use cutting weapons on damaged vehicles while injured humans are still inside. Another council member's tentacles waved in distress. Tom quickly stepped in. Let's show them something else. Here's how humans tackle natural disasters. The screen showed hurricane rescue teams in boats driving through massive waves. They go toward the deadly storms. Blue, the head council member, blinked all four eyes rapidly. On purpose? Of course, Mary replied enthusiastically. We never leave people behind. Look at this mountain rescue team climbing through a blizzard. Several council members had to be given breathing apparatus to calm down. Perhaps we should focus on peaceful activities, Tom suggested hurriedly. Here's how humans explore their world. The screen showed cave divers squeezing through narrow underwater passages. They swim into holes in the ground that are filled with water. A gaseous council member condensed slightly in shock. And mountain climbers scaling the world's highest peaks, added Mary helpfully. Without anti-gravity units. Someone shouted from the back. Using only ropes. Tom tried again. Let's show them our scientific achievements instead. The screen displayed the first nuclear test. U deliberately split. The entire council shifted away from the screen. Only for peaceful purposes, Tom assured them. Well, mostly. Look, here's how we study dangerous diseases to cure them. They keep the deadly microorganisms alive to study them. Blue's color had shifted to a pale gray, in purpose-built facilities. Mary beamed. We have whole labs full of them. And look at our space program. The screen showed the early space shuttle launches. You strap yourselves to explosive devices to leave your planet. A crystalline council member was vibrating with anxiety. Those success rates, you accepted those odds. We call it having the right stuff, Mary said proudly. Here's our Mars mission plans. Enough, Blue interrupted, waving all four arms. Ambassador Smith, Colonel Wilson, your defense has only confirmed our concerns. You've shown us that humans run toward danger instead of away from it. Intentionally keep deadly things to study them. Accept casualty rates that would traumatize most species. Explore dangerous places just because they exist. Split atoms for fun and profit. And plan to spread this behavior to other planets. Tom looked confused. But we're doing all this to help people and advance science. That's what makes it worse, Blue explained. You're not even doing these things out of necessity. You're doing them because you want to. Mary stepped forward again. Let me show you our plans for deep space exploration. No, shouted the entire council in unison. Tom and Mary shared a bewildered look as the council members huddled together, whispering frantically. Well, Tom whispered to Mary, I think that went pretty well. Absolutely, she agreed. Should I tell them about our experimental antimatter research? In the back of the chamber, several alien representatives quietly began updating their species' emergency evacuation plans. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council sparkled with decorations for the annual planetary awards ceremony. The Earth delegation stood proudly at their table, completely missing the fact that all other species had requested seating at least 30 feet away from them. And now, announced Blue, the head council member, the moment we've all been dreading. I mean, awaiting. The award for most terrifying planet goes to Earth. The human delegation burst into applause, while the rest of the audience tried to politely clap while maintaining their distance. Ambassador Tom Smith walked to the podium, beaming with pride. "Thank you. We're honored to receive this award. Though I must say, we're still a bit confused about why. You literally walked through acid rain for centuries while trying to fix it," someone shouted from the back. "Well, yes, but your young play games where they deliberately hide from each other in the dark," called another voice. "That's just hide and seek. You keep venomous creatures as pets." Tom held up his hands. "Now my pet snake is perfectly safe." The entire front row fainted. Colonel Mary Wilson joined Tom at the podium. "We'd like to thank the council for this recognition. To celebrate, we've prepared a special presentation about Earth's upcoming plans." "Oh no," muttered Blue. First, Mary continued enthusiastically. "We're planning to build a base inside an active volcano to study Earth's core." Several alien delegates began quietly moving toward the exits. "We're also training dolphins to help with deep-sea mining." "They're weaponizing their planet's apex predators," whispered a horrified council member. "And wait until you hear about our plans for orbital skydiving." The evacuation became less subtle as entire delegations headed for their ships. Dr. Ann Roberts grabbed the microphone next. "We're also making exciting progress in reviving extinct species." "They're bringing back their dead monsters," shrieked someone near the back. "And our new space station will have artificial gravity through rotation." "They're building a spinning death trap in space," came another cry. Bill Cooper tried to salvage the situation. "Perhaps we could all calm down with some nice Earth refreshments. We brought coffee and spicy snacks. They want us to consume their stimulant drugs and pain-causing food." The exodus became a stampede. Tom watched in confusion as the hall rapidly emptied. "Was it something we said?" Jack Miller, who had been observing from the side, approached the Earth delegation. "You really don't understand, do you? Everything you're proud of terrifies them. You treat impossible challenges as exciting opportunities. You see barriers as things to break through. You turn deadly environments into tourist destinations." "But that's just human nature," Mary protested. "Wait until they hear about our plans for Mars. We're going to terraform it by." The last remaining aliens fled the hall. Blue, the only council member still present, floated over to the Earth delegation. "Congratulations on your award. Please accept this trophy, and please don't tell us any more of your plans." "But we haven't even mentioned our deep-sea colonies or our particle accelerator experiments," Tom called after Blue's retreating form. The humans stood alone in the massive hall, surrounded by abandoned seats and dropped awards. "Well," said Tom, examining their trophy, "I think that went rather well. Who's up for celebrating with some extreme sports?" "Ooh, I know a great place for volcano surfing," Mary suggested. "Perfect. And then we can try that new restaurant that serves those peppers that make you sign a waiver." As the Earth delegation happily planned their celebration, somewhere in the galaxy, the Council was hastily updating Earth's classification from most terrifying planet to most terrifying planet. Approach with extreme caution. And in a final ironic twist that only humans could appreciate, Earth's new reputation as the most terrifying planet in the galaxy made them the top tourist destination for alien thrill seekers and adrenaline junkies. After all, where else could you watch humans do literally anything because it might be fun?